Welcome to Deep Thought, a false ego. Now, yesterday I talked about the purpose of ego. I say it is actually a good thing because it's meant to protect you. And that's a healthy ego. It's meant to protect you. It's meant for you to look out for your own needs. It's meant for you to take care of yourself. And it's also as a shield to prevent others from unduly influencing you. So it's nothing wrong with that. But then you have many people who create a false ego. What's a false ego? They create a mask of what they are, and they tell people about the mask. They'll say, oh, I'm super confident. Or sometimes people can even say, well, I'm this great looking person. You actually see it a lot online. People say, I'm this smart and everything. That's a false ego. See, you protecting yourself, but you protecting a falsehood. You wearing a mask. That's not good. That is not good. And you projecting it out to the world and trying to tell the world this, even though they're looking at you and seeing something different. How often have we looked at somebody and they'll say, well, I'm handsome, I'm beautiful and stuff. And you're looking at them like, I don't quite agree. You can be a group of people like, I don't quite agree. Or they'll say how smart they are. And they'll try to project, oh, I'm smart, I know this, I'm a genius. But in their actions, they don't show that. They don't show that at all. And I mean, we've all seen that person. I mean, because there's an incongruence between what they're saying and what they're actually presenting. Because remember what I've said one time, and anybody who's doing a study can corroborate this when they know about communication. Only about maybe 8 to 10% of communication, well, the numbers I've seen, 8% of communication is verbal. The rest is nonverbal. So when somebody says something, they could be projecting something. But, their nonverbal communication, their body language and how they carry themselves doesn't align with what they're saying. That's a false ego. And then even a worse type of false ego is someone just lying to themselves. And that's even worse. Yes, the ego is there to protect you, but the ego is there to protect your spirit, but not the lie. Not the lie. You don't want to be in a position where you're lying about who you are. Because, see, here's the problem with lies. You start to believe them. And if you start to believe your own lies, then you don't know how to deal with truth. And one of the things I've said in life, lies always come to light. A lie is a house of cards. Or a slight breeze can blow it down. It comes down very easily. Anybody who's ever built a house of cards, y'all know you just vibrate the table a little bit and the cards come falling down. That's the same thing. So ultimately, the false ego doesn't work. Because when you have a healthy ego, a real ego, when you have issues, you work on them. So I can get into that, but when you feel good about yourself and you feel like things aren't going well, what do? You work to change it. You work to deal with it. Because part of ego is saying, I have to heal these issues. But that's when you have a healthy ego. But if you have a false one, you lie to yourself and say, well, that's not an issue. That's not a problem. So you're not only lying to those outside of you, but you lying to yourself. And that's really worse. That's really worse. That's worse, lying to yourself. Because unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes people, just to get along, have to tell a little small falsehood. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world where we can be totally honest. And even if you're not the type who wants to do that, sometimes an omission can be a lie. Sometimes an omission can be a lie. It is what it is. But a false ego, that's a false identity. That's a counterfeit persona. You believe you are this, and then believe in that lie, and then you're trying to project it. But then that moment comes when something cracks that ego. See, one thing about the ego, it's strong, but if it's not based on a solid foundation, it can be cracked easily. That's why you get people like they'll lose something. They're projecting like, yeah, but then when they have a loss, something happens. They lose a ball game. All of a sudden, everything comes down. Have you ever seen that person? They look like they're on top of the world. They come off as confident, even cocky, but then as soon as that one thing hits, boom. I've seen that with people. I've seen that. They'll come up, they all confident, everything, but then you hit them and, you get right past that false ego they trying to present. And then they just change up. You might just say, and it could be something small. You could be like, oh, you don't look all that. Boom. Or you don't seem that smart. Boom. Because one thing with the ego, you don't have to, it's just there for protection. You don't have to project it out. But see, people with a false ego will do that. And that's the ego people talk about when they talk about there's a problem. You say his ego's too big, when there's a real problem. Like I said in the last one, sometimes people will say that just because you're not following along their agenda. But this, when someone sees that your ego is causing a problem and you engaging in negative activities that have a negative impact on people. This ain't the type of person trying to force you to do something. This a person just living, but your ego. Or your ego might cause you to pick with somebody or go after them. Because you need that to make to strengthen that false ego. But see, that's the thing you got to deal with, and that's what a lot of people have. It's not a situation. It's just they trying to project it out. They trying to hide their inner, their inner turmoil, the issues they have in mind. And see, that's what, like I said, that's what people are really talking about when they say that a person's ego is too big. And indeed, there's another one. This ain't quite a false ego, but then somebody, they could actually have everything going for them. Right? They can have everything going for them, but then their ego, they let it get out of control. Like they genuinely, if they feel like they're handsome, they genuinely handsome. We all seen that person, like you look at them, they genuinely handsome. Or they genuinely smart or whatever it is. And I'm going to get more into that balancing the ego in the next one. So it's something to think about. Like the ego overall is a good thing. Overall, but then somebody creates a falsehood. Falsehoods are never good. All right. So anyway, that's all I have for now. I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.